That's my food. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a look at my bookshelves. Again. So I've been actually teasing this video for a while, and you guys mentioned that you would like to see another second bookshelf tour, because the last one I did was a year ago, and my books have, like, shelves have changed dramatically since then, but also, like, I am not happy with that one at all. I actually hate it so much. The audio is terrible because I didn't have, like, a good recording system yet, and, like, now I've actually got, like, a mic and stuff, and I know where to stand, and, like, I just know how to do it better. So I'm gonna show you a look at my shelves. I'm gonna focus mainly on, like, these and then the tiny one right there in my middle grade shelf, because those are mostly my books. I'll touch on the nonfiction shelf, but those aren't mine. Most of those are my husband's. It's not very exciting. I don't even know what's on them, to be honest. So we're gonna do these mainly, but I will show you a quick kind of look at those as well. But yeah, I feel like I've talked enough about bookshelf tours, so let's just get right into this one. I hope you guys enjoy. So we will start with my very top shelf on my leftmost shelves of the three that stand behind me, kind of like the main section of my shelves I consider. This one you don't actually see very often, but this is where my fantasy collection starts. We'll start with Ashante by Gita Trelease, The Crown's Game and The Crown's Fate by Evelyn Skye. I don't actually know the series name. The Crown's Game, maybe? Sister Song by Lucy Holland, Malice by Heather Walter, the entire Broken Earth trilogy, which is the 5th season, The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky, all by N.K. Jemisin, The Evil Queen by Jenna Showalter, this beautiful UK edition of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And finally, My Lady Janie's books, the My Lady Jane, My Plain Jane, and My Calamity Jane, all by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. And my next shelf right directly under that, we'll start with A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. And then the entire Wayward Children's series by Shauna Maguire, I have all that are currently out. We'll have Every Heart a Doorway, Down Among the Sticks and Bones, Beneath the Sugar Sky, In an Absent Dream, Come Tumbling Down, and Across the Green Grass Fields. Starting off my teeny tiny Mermaid Siren collection, we have A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow, Mermaid Moon by Suzanne Kokol, Tequila Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, Roaring by Lindsay Duga, The Starless Sea and the Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, Queen of Queen Whispers by Helen Corcoran, The Ladies of Grace Adieu and Other Stories by Susanna Clark, A Lot So by Darcy Little Badger. Now starting some of my Owl Crate covers, we've got The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, Crier's War by Nina Varela, The Beholder and the Boundless by Anna Bright, and Mirage by Samaya Daoud. Alright, next shelf directly underneath, more fantasy. We'll start on the bottom of that stack with Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. While Beauty Slept by Elizabeth Blackwell. Then starting out with my mini Gregory Maguire collection, we've got the Wicked series, which is Wicked, Son of a Witch, A Line Among Men, and Out of Oz. And then my final two Maguire books, which is Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister and After Alice. Then we've got my Middle-earth series by J.R.R. Tolkien, which is The Hobbit, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Barron. The Bells trilogy so far by Danielle Clayton, which is The Bells and the Everlasting Rose. The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Daniel Page. And the Serpent and Dove series so far, which is Serpent and Dove and Blood and Honey. And we start the bookshelf that has almost all of my Owlcrate editions. Words of Ink and Shadow by Lena Coakley. The Guardians trilogy by Nora Roberts, which is Stars of Fortune, Bay of Sighs, and Island of Glass. The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Adier. Yes, I did almost unhaul this. Yes, I did keep it. Lifestyles of Gods and Monsters by Emily Robertson. The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. The Antidote by Shelley Sakier. All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. Scavenge the Stars by Tara Sim. An art copy of Warrior of the Wild by Teresa Levenseller. This came out like 2 years ago. The Cold is in Her Bones by Peternell Van Arsdale. The Camelot Rising series so far, which is The Guinevere Deception and The Camelot Betrayal, both by Kirsten White. Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. Crown of Feathers by Nikki Powell Prato. Ace of Shades and a mini excerpt from King of Fools by Amanda Foodie. And Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nian. And the very bottom levels on this one bookshelf is, again, more fantasy. The Ballad of Sky Black by Mark Early. Switcher by Diane Mayer Christensen. The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. The Host by Stephanie Meyer. An art copy of Eve of Man by Giovanna and Tom Fletcher. This also came out like 2 years ago. The Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. The Darkest Minds series, which is The Darkest Mind, Never Fade, In the Afterlight, Through the Dark, and The Darkest Legacy, all by Alexander Bracken. Lore by Alexander Bracken. Beauty, Charm, and Poison by Sarah Pinborough. The entire Selection series by Kira Cass, which is The Collection, The Elite, The One, The Heir, and The Crown. Then we also have Happily Ever After, which is a collection of short stories in the Selection series, and The Siren, both by Kira Cass. And finally, Ink by Alice Broadway. Alright, starting the very top of my next shelf. These should start looking familiar because these are the ones that are behind me while filming. The entire Folk in the Air series by Holly Black, which is The Cool Prince, The Wicked King, The Queen of Nothing, and How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate stories. House of Earth and Blood, The First in the Crescent City series, and A Court of Thorns and Roses, both by Sarah J. Maas. A Deal with the Elf King by Elisa Kova. The First and the Regency Fairy Tales series by Olivia Atwater, and that is Half a Soul. As Old as Time and A Whole New World, both part of the Twisted Tale series, and these are both written by Liz Braswell. Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Colthurst. The Queen of the Tearling series by Erica Johansson, which is The Queen of the Tearling, The Invasion of the Tearling, and The Fate of the Tearling. I think that's what the series is called? I actually don't even know. Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and Circe and the Song of Achilles, both by Madeline Miller. Alright, right below that is the very, very end of my fantasy section, as well as the beginning of my sci-fi. Actually, I'm pretty sure all of my sci-fi is actually on the shelf, now that I think about it. A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. Starting out sci-fi, we have Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. The Grace Year by Kim Lidgett. The Similars by Rebecca Hanover. The XY by Virginia Bergen. Brightly Burning and The Stars We Steal, both by Alexa Dawn. The Jane Austen Project by Kathleen A. Flynn. The Themis Files series, which is The Sleeping Giants, Waking Gods, and Only Human, all by Sylvain Nouvelle. The Heart of Iron series by Ashley Poston, and this is Heart of Iron and Soul of Stars. Aurora Rising, the first in the Aurora cycle by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. And finishing out sci-fi, we have the Illuminae Files series by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff, and that is Illuminae, Gemina, and Obsidio. Starting out my historical fiction section, Death Comes to Pemberley by P.D. James. Confessions of a Jane Austen Addict and Rude Awakenings of a Jane Austen Addict by Lori Vera Rigler. Mr. and Mrs. Fitzwilliam Darcy by Shannon Lathan. Mr. Darcy Takes a Wife by Linda Birdall. The Lost Memoirs of Jane Austen and The Missing Manuscript of Jane Austen, both by Cerie James. Lost in Austen by Emma Campbell Webster. Longbourn by Joe Baker. The Witches of St. Petersburg by Imogen Edwards Jones. The American Heiress, The Fortune Hunter, and Victoria, all by Daisy Goodwin. An Arc of Bringing Down the Duke, and a finished copy of A Rogue of One's Own, both by Evie Dunmore. Again, an arc of To Have and to Hoax, and a finished copy of To Love and to Loathe, both by Martha Waters. These Old Shades by Georgette Hare. Suitors and Sabotage, and Duels and Deception, both by Cindy Ainsley. Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. The Invention of Sophie Carter by Samantha Hastings. Continuing on with historical fiction, we have The Accidental Empress by Alison Pataki. The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zefan. I also have Shadow in the Wind, but my mother is currently borrowing that. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Paper Hearts by Meg Wibbett. The Sister Queens by Sophie Pernod. Eve and the Shack by William Paul Young. Wicked Girls by Stephanie Hemphill. The Royal Nanny by Karen Harper. The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Schaefer and Annie Barrows. Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee. The Lace Reader by Bernona Berry. Juliet by Anne Fortier. And No Dark Place by Joan Wolfe. So my bottom shelf is a really tall shelf, so it's a little hard to show you, but this is where all of my mass market paperbacks live. Starting out on the left, we have the entire Outlander series that I have so far. I'm not going to pull all of them out, but we have Outlander, Dragonfly and Amber, Voyager, Drums of Autumn, The Fiery Cross, A Breath of Snow and Ashes, An Echo in the Bone, and Written in My Own Heart's Blood. The Wedding Bargain by Victoria Alexander. First comes Marriage by Mary Below. Hazard by Joe Beverly. A Wicked Gentleman by Jane Feather. And then my Joanna Lindsay collection, which is A Rogue of My Own, The Heir, The Devil Who Tamed Her, and Man of My Dreams. There you go, now you can see him. And then the entire Reluctant Royals series by Alyssa Cole, which is A Princess in Theory, A Duke by Default, and A Prince on Paper, and two novellas which are Can't Escape Love and Once Ghosted, Twice Shy. And then I also have the First and the Runaway Royals series by Alyssa Cole, which is How to Catch a Queen. And finally, we have the First in the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn, which is The Duke and I. And the top of my final shelf on these main three, more historical fiction, but primarily my Philippa Gregory collection. A Mad Wicked Folly by Sharon Biggs Waller. A Poisoned Season by Tasha Alexander. The Little Paris Bookshop by Nina George. The Lady Elizabeth by Alison Weir. Starting out my Philippa Gregory collection, we have The Lady of the Rivers, The White Queen, The Red Queen, The Kingmaker's Daughter, The White Princess, The Constant Princess, The King's Curse, Three Sisters, Three Queens, The Other Boleyn Girl, The Boleyn Inheritance, The Taming of the Queen, The Queen's Fool, The Virgin's Lover, The Other Queen, and finally, The Last Tutor. Right below that, we have a shelf finishing out my historical fiction and starting my contemporary, specifically my contemporary romance. Lovely War by Julie Berry, The Familiars by Stacey Halls, Romanov by Nadine Brands, The Downstairs Girl by Stacey Lee, An Assassin's Guide to Love and Treason by Virginia Boker, The 48 by Donna Hose, The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee, The American Royals series by Catherine McGee, which is American Royals and Majesty, My So-Called Bollywood Life by Nisha Sharma. And starting out my Lily Menon / Sandia Menon series, we have Makeup and Breakup, an arc of Curses and Kisses, the Dimpleverse series, which is When Dimple Met Rishi, There's Something About Sweetie, and 10 Things I Hate About Pinky. And finally, From Twinkle with Love. Got the bulk of my contemporary romance sectioned off with normal romance, and then everything based on kind of Jane Austen. So we'll start off with Love at First Like by Hannah Ornstein, The Bride Test by Helen Huang, The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory, Beach Read by Emily Henry, This Series by Erin Line, which is I Love You subject in terms to the following conditions, and Unconditionally. Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, Get a Life Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. Starting off my Christina Lauren collection, we have The Honey Don't List, Twice in a Blue Moon, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, My Favorite Half-Night Stand, The Unhoneymooners, and Autobiography. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Starting off my Jane Austen inspired stack, we have Jane in Love by Rachel Givney, Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors, and Recipe for Persuasion by Sonalia Dev, The Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennet by Bernie Sue and Kate Rorick. Eligible by Curtis Sittenfeld, The Jane Austen Marriage Manual by Kim Izzo, Jane of Austen by Hilary Manton Lodge, Pride by E.B. Zaboy, and finally, Mary B., An Untold Story of Pride and Prejudice by Catherine J. Chin. Starting off kind of my more YA shelf, kind of, there's really no rhyme or reason beyond this point. This is just kind of contemporary now. Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake, Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera, Where I End and You Begin by Preston Norton, 4321 by Courtney Stevens, Meet Cute by a bunch of authors, Every Moment After by Joseph Maldover, Amanda Wakes Up by Allison Camerota, The Air Affair by Heather Cox and Jessica Morgan, The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera, and then my solo Becky Albertalli collection, which is Kate in Waiting, her new book that just came out, Leah on the Offbeat and Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, part of the Simonverse, and The Upside of Unrequited. The Sun is Also a Star and Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon. Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin O'Leary Sands. And then we have the All the Boys I Loved Before series by Ginny Han, which is To All the Boys I've Loved Before, P.S. I Still Love You, and Always and Forever, Laura Jean. And finishing off this shelf, we have I Believe in a Thing Called Loved by Maureen Gu. And finishing off this main three shelves, we've got the very, very bottom, more contemporary actually. I've got my Jodi Picoult collection, which is The Book of Two Ways, Leaving Time, and My Sister's Keeper. Dear Evan Hansen, the novel based on the Broadway show by a bunch of people. So we've got Val Imich, Stephen Levinson, Benj Pasek, and Justin Paul, which are all creators of the show. I Was Here by Gail Foreman. Then we have another series by Nora Roberts. This one is The Bride Quartet, which is Vision in White, Bed of Roses, Savor the Moment, and Happily Ever After. Forever by Judy Blume. My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Stout. Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. The Forgotten Book by Mashid Glazer. My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. Frankly in Love by David Yoon, which honestly should probably be up by Nicola Yoon stuff. The Black Coats by Colleen Oakes. The Chaos of Standing Still by Jessica Brody. Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. Royals, which I think now is called Royal Highness or something like that, by Rachel Hawkins. Literally by Lucy Kading. And finishing off this shelf, we have The Love Interest by Cale Dietrich. Alright, so we are in the next big, tall shelf. This is what I like to call my mystery shelf, even though this top shelf is for sure still contemporary. But this is the one that is sometimes in the back of my videos. There's a chair between my main three shelves, and this one's just kind of off to the side. But yeah, so this shelf is the rest of my contemporary. I Want to Be Where You Are by Christina Forrest. Slay and The Cost of Knowing by Brittany Morris. Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett. Who I Was With Her by Nita Tyndall. If I Was Your Girl and Birthday by Meredith Russo. You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Smash It by Francina Simone. Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. Clap When You Land and The Poet X, both by Elizabeth Acevedo. Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. Dear Haiti, Love Elaine by Marika Mulit and Maritza Mulit. Black Enough by many, many authors, but it was edited by E.B. Zaboy. Intercepted by Alexa Martin. I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. Moxie by Jennifer Matu. And Sadie by Courtney Summers. Alright, starting off the mystery section. I'm not going to pull them out, but we have all of the books by Robert Galbraith. All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. The Weight of Silence by Heather Gudenkoff. This one won't stand up. But Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Women at Point Zero by Nawal El-Saadawi. The President is Missing by Bill Clinton and James Patterson. Volumes 1 and 2 of the complete Sherlock Holmes stories by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. State of Fear by Michael Crichton. Whiteout by Ken Follett, and Origin by Dan Brown. More mystery for the shelf. This is what I like to call my Agatha Christie shelf, even though it only takes up like maybe a third. The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. Defending Jacob by William Landy. Somebody I Used to Know by David Bell. The Au Pair by Emma Rouse. Starting off my Agatha Christie collection, we have And Then There Were None, Death on the Nile, The Hollow, After the Funeral, Halloween Party, Closed Casket, The Man in the Brown Suit, The Murder on the Links, and finally, Murder on the Orient Express. Then we have these two psych books, which are based on the television show, both by William Rabkin, and that is The Call of the Mild and A Mind is a Terrible Thing to Read. And then we have this small collection of Monk books, which are based on the Monk TV show. We have Mr. Monk Goes to the Firehouse, Mr. Monk on Patrol, Mr. Monk on the Couch, Mr. Monk and the Two Assistants, Mr. Monk and the Blue Flu, and Mr. Monk Goes to Hawaii. The Fourth Hand by John Irving. Hide and Seek by James Patterson. Another copy of The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. A Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, and Pudd'nhead Wilson, both by Mark Twain. And Heat Wave by Richard Castle. And right below that, we have what is left of our mystery section and a bunch of random bookmarks. Okay, this is just spillover because we've run out of room. The Lying Game by Ruth Ware, The Guest List by Lucy Foley, One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, You Owe Me a Murder by Eileen Cook, Lady Jane Disappears by Joanna Davidson Politano, The Language of Flowers by Vanessa Diffenbaugh, One Amazing Thing by Chitra Divakaruni, The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker, The Phantom of Pemberley, a Pride and Prejudice murder mystery by Regina Jeffers, and The Mysterious Death of Miss Jane Austen by Lindsay Ashford. And the very bottom shelf is really just our collection of children's books, younger, middle grade. We used to have children's and middle grade on the same shelf, but we ran out of room because we kept getting more middle grade. So this is primarily just kind of like children's books. I don't know why those are there. So a lot of these down here are Chris's, but this is a sports series for kids by Matt Christopher. So we have Tight End, Tough to Tackle, The Great Quarterback Switch, Center Court Sting, Long Arm Quarterback, and Football Nightmare. From the Mixed Up Files of Miss Basil E. Frankwheeler by E.L. Kongsberg. And then a bunch of Encyclopedia Brown books. We've got Encyclopedia Brown Sets the Pace, Encyclopedia Brown Keeps the Pace, Encyclopedia Brown Saves the Day, Encyclopedia Brown and the Case of the Midnight Visitor, and then Encyclopedia Brown and the Case of the Mysterious Handprints. All by Donald J. Sabol. And then a bunch of Boxcar Children's books. We've got the first one, The Boxcar Children, second one, Surprise Island, sixth one, Blue Bay Mysteries, special sixth one, The Mystery at the Fair, and then the 21st one, The Desired Library Mystery. Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim by Robert C. O'Brien. Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Patterson. Because of Winn-Dixie and the Tale of Despero by Kate DiCamillo. The Phantom Tolbooth by Norton Juster. George by Alex Gino. Molly Warner School Reporter by Dan Kilday. A couple books of the Mystery at series by Carolyn Marsh. We have The Mystery at Kill Devil's Hill and The Mystery at Disney World. Cam Jensen with two mysteries in this book, The Mystery of the Stolen Diamonds and The Mystery of the Babe Ruth Baseball by David A. Adler. Got some more Cam Jensen mysteries. Cam Jensen and the Mystery of the Gold Coins, Mystery of Flight 54, and Barking a Treasure Mystery. The Boy Who Saved Baseball by John H. Ritter. Miracle on 49th Street by Mike Lupica. Heart of a Champion by Carl Duker. All of the Above by Shelley Pearsall. And The Great Mouse Detective series by Eve Tudis, which is Basil of Baker Street, Basil in the Cave of Cats, Basil in Mexico, Basil and the Wild West, Basil and the Lost Colony, Basil and the Big Cheese Cook-Off, Basil and the Royal Dare, and Basil and the Library Ghost. So there's just some random files over here, but there are a few picture books which I will mention. So we've got this one, which is the Pride and Prejudice Counting by Number by Jennifer Adams. This little golden book of Peter Pan. The Polar Express, this is the 25th anniversary edition. It is signed, so I have it in a special place. Roller Coaster by Marla Fraze. The Tale of Three Trees by Angela Elwell Hunt. And finally, Where's My Teddy by Jez Alborough. Right next to that is a smaller, shorter, I like to call it a half shelf. It's only got 3 shelves on it, and this is where our classics live. We'll start off with the Nancy Drew mystery books I have. So this one is The Hidden Staircase, Mystery at Lilac Inn, A Message in the Hollow Oak, The Mystery of the Ivory Charm, The Clue of the Tapping Heels, The Secret in the Old Attic, The Mystery of the Tolling Bell, The Secret of the Wooden Lady, The Hidden Window Mystery, The Haunted Showboat, The Secret of the Golden Pavilion, The Mystery of the Fire Dragon, and finally, The Password to Larkspur Lane. And then we have these 2 beautiful editions of Alice in Wonderland. So we've got Alice in Wonderland and then Through the Looking Glass, both by Lewis Carroll. I usually have them in this little covering, but I took them out so you can see how pretty they are. Then we have As I Lay Dying, The Sound and the Fury, and Light in August, all by William Faulkner. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. Actually, we also have this edition right next to it. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This is actually my 8th grade copy of it. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. The Power and the Glory by Graham Greene. The Importance of Being Earnest and Other Plays by Oscar Wilde. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Sleepy Hollow and Other Short Stories by Washington Irving. Ragtime by E.L. Doctorow. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. And Timequake by Kurt Vonnegut. This is my Jane Austen shelf. Mostly, but it's about half Jane Austen. The Younger Sister by Jane Austen. This is a book that was finished by her niece, whose name is Catherine Ann Austen Hubeck. The Complete 7 Novels of Jane Austen. The Lit Joy Crate version of Pride and Prejudice, a timeless classic edition of Persuasion, a literary classic edition of Pride and Prejudice, the 2 unfinished works by Jane Austen, Sanditon and The Watsons, this Canterbury classic edition of Sense and Sensibility, this Arcturus edition of Northanger Abbey, and this finished edition of Sanditon by Jane Austen and Juliet Shapiro. Then we have these, I don't even know what you would call this series, but it's Dawn of the Dreadfuls, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, and Dreadfully Ever After, all by Jane Austen. Pride and Prejudice and Zombies is by Seth Grahame-Smith, and the other 2 are by Steve Hawkins-Smith. And then we also have Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters by Jane Austen and Ben H. Winters. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Summer by Edith Wharton. A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Watership Down by Richard Adams. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. 1984 by George Orwell. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And a collection of works by the Bronte sisters. This specifically has Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre. And the very last shelf in this small classics collection is pretty editions and I guess what I would consider children's classics. The Tales of King Arthur by James Riordan, and it's illustrated by Victor Armorus. Favorite Tales from Shakespeare by Bernard Mills. An illustrated edition of The Swiss Family Robinson by Joanna Weiss. A complete illustrated Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And this HarperCollins illustrated edition of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. And these 3 Reader's Digest editions, all by Mark Twain, A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, The Prince and the Pauper, and The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. This Reader's Digest version of The Old Curiosity Shop by Charles Dickens. This very, very battered edition of A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain. The unabridged Mark Twain, Volumes 1 and 2. Yet another edition of The Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court by Mark Twain. King and Joker by Peter Dickinson. A Shakespeare Made Easy edition of Macbeth. Then I've got these 3 by Roald Dahl, The BFG, The Witches, and Matilda, all from when, I was a child. The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgins Burnett. This stunning illustrated edition of The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. And finally, this very tall edition of Anne of Green Gables by L. M. Montgomery. So here's a look at the last 2 shelves I have. This is the hodgepodge of stuff, to be honest. And then, of course, the TBR basket as well. But the shelf on the left, that is mainly nonfiction. And a lot of those are my husband's, and I honestly don't even know what's on most of those shelves. So I'm not going to go through any of those just because, like I said, I literally have no idea. But I will go through the one on the right because those are, I'm pretty sure, except for like maybe a few on the bottom shelf, those are all fiction books. So I'm not going to touch on this one too much because it is my Harry Potter shelf. All of these are different editions of Harry Potter or Harry Potter related, but everything on this shelf was bought before we knew the author was not such a great human. But I do actually like how this shelf looks. It's very just fun. But we also have a Pop Funko of Megan Rapinoe, which I just think is amazing. So I put her there to just brighten up the world. So yeah, I'm not going to go into detail, but I just wanted to actually show you because I do have this shelf. So this shelf is my husband's John Grisham shelf. Every single book on the shelf is a John Grisham novel. It's looks like a hot mess, honestly, because we've started collecting the hardback, like tall hardbacks, which you can see over here, but then at the same time we've got smaller things, we've run out of room. This really needs to be 2 shelves, but we don't have anywhere else any more room. So well, I'm just gonna go through these really quickly. A Time for Mercy, The Firm, The Client, A Time to Kill, The Associate, Calico Joe, Bleachers, The Pelican Brief, The Racketeer, The Chamber, The Summons, The Runaway Jury, The Rainmaker, The Broker, The Confession, The Litigators, Sycamore Row, Grey Mountain, Rogue Lawyer, The Whistler, The Rooster Bar, The Guardians, The Reckoning, Camino Island, and Camino Winds. And then right below that is the start of our middle grade collection. The entire Theodore Boone series by John Grisham. This is his kind of mystery series he wrote for kids. So we start with Kid Lawyer, The Abduction, The Accused, The Activist, The Fugitive, The Scandal, and The Accomplice. Then we have the Sports Beat series, I think is what it's called, by John Feinstein. We have The Last Shot, Vanish, Cover Up, Change Up, The Rivalry, and Rush for the Gold. And then we have the other John Feinstein series. I believe it's actually called the Benchwarmers series, but it's Benchwarmers and Game Changers that are currently out right now. And then we have the Peter and the Starcatcher series by Dave Barry and Ridley Pearson, which is Peter and the Starcatchers, Peter and the Shadow Thieves, Peter and the Secret of Rundoon, Peter and the Sword of Mercy, and then the 5th one hiding over there is The Bridge to Neverland. Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga. A Mall Unbound by Aisha Said. And Love Like Sky by Leslie C. Youngblood. And the next one is more middle grade. Shocked, I know. Then we have the entire Missing series by Margaret Patterson Haddix. I won't pull all of them out, but there are 8 in total, and it is Found, Sent, Sabotaged, Torn, Caught, Risked, Revealed, and Redeemed. The Strangers by Margaret Patterson Haddix, The Vanishing Trick by Jenny Spangler, the entire School for Good and Evil series by Salman Chinadi. Again, I won't pull all of them out, you can see all of them there. But it's the first one there, the second one, A World Without Princes, the third one, The Last Ever After, fourth one, Quests for Glory, fifth one, A Crystal of Time, and the sixth one, One True King. We have these 3 beautiful books by Sophie Anderson, The House with Chicken Legs, The Girl Who Speaks Bear, and The Castle of Tangled Magic. Then we have a Pinch of Magic series by Michelle Harrison, with the first one being A Pinch of Magic, the second one being A Sprinkle of Sorcery, and the third one being A Tangle of Spells. And we have this other series by Michelle Harrison, which I believe is called the 13 Treasures series, and they are 13 treasures, 13 curses, and the one falling is 13 secrets. I will show you the shelf underneath that. It is just some of my historical nonfiction books, specifically about Henry VIII. That's where my Nancy Goldstone's books go, that kind of stuff. I didn't want to go through these, but just wanted to mention that those are down there. And my final shelf, the small kind of half shelf I have that's always behind the camera when filming. I'm actually going to go from bottom to top on this one because the bottom is where the rest of the middle grade books are. So we have Song for a Whale by Lynn Kelly, the first in the Magic Misfits series by Neil Patrick Harris, Lily and Duncan by Donna Gephardt, Time Sight by Lynn Johnell, Miraculous by Jess Redman, The Gallery by Laura Martz Fitzgerald, Behind the Canvas by Alexander Vance. The first in the Tristan Strong series by Kwame Mbala. Tristan Strong punches a hole in the sky. Wonder and 365 Days of Wonder, Mr. Brown's Precepts by R.J. Palacio. And then we have the entire A Series of Unfortunate Events series by Lemony Snicket, which is The Bad Beginning, The Reptile Room, The Wide Window, The Miserable Mill, The Austere Academy, The Vile Village, The Ersatz Elevator, The Hostile Hospital, The Carnivorous Carnival, The Slippery Slope, The Grim Grotto, The Penultimate Peril, and The End. Right above that is my kind of poetry shelf. We have this textbook I had in college, which is The Making of a Poem by Mark Strand and Evan Bolland. Goddess of the Hunt by Shelby Eileen. Ballistics by Billy Collins. Voices, The Final Hours of Joan of Arc, and Bull, both by David Eliot. When the World Didn't End, Poems by Carolyn Kaufman. The Premier Book of Major Poets, an anthology, edited by Anita Dorr. World War I British Poets. Aphrodite Made Me Do It by Trista Mader. 2 A.M. Thoughts by Mackenzie Campbell. Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. Yesterday I Was the Moon by Noor Unar. Evolution by my lovely friend Kimmy Bennings. A collection of love poems slighted by David Stanford Burr. And finally, a collection of comedic poems. And my very last shelf, the top of this little tiny one, is where all of my comics, graphic novels, and mangas go. Collection of graphic novels called March, Book 1, 2, and 3, all by John Lewis about his life. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Volume 1 of Watakoi, written by Fujita. Volume 1 of Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. Volume 1 of Happy Marriage by Maki and Joji. Volume 1 of Spy Family by Tatsuya Endo. The complete series Volumes 1 and 2 of My Brother's Husband by Jinjora Kadame. Volumes 1, 2, and 3 of Emma by Koru Mori. Volume 1 of A Dreaming Sun by Ichigo Tagamu. Our Dining Table by Mida Ori. How to Treat Magical Beasts, Volume 1 by Kazuya. Volume 1 of If It's For My Daughter, I'd Even Defeat a Demon Lord, and this is by Chirulu. Woman World by Eminder Jawaliwal. Bloom by Kevin Pineda and Savannah Gunsharu. The Complete Peanuts by Charles M. Schultz. Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. And the completed series of Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples, Volumes 1 through 9. Well, it's not complete, but I've got all that are currently out. Hello, Editing Kelsey here. Realized that there are a couple books that are still on our TBR cart that forgot to show you because they weren't actually on the shelves. So I'm going to show them to you real quick. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. The Team That Couldn't Lose by Matt Christopher. The 39 Clues, Book 1, Maze of Bones by Rick Riordan. The Secret of the Old Clock, a Nancy Drew mystery. Green Glass House by Kate Milford. And finally, The Kitchen House by Catherine Grisham. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled broadcast. So that's a look at my bookshelves. I hope that you guys enjoyed a little quick, hopefully it was quick, look at what I have here. I know you guys see like these mainly, but there's a few more around. I hope you guys enjoyed. If there's any books that you saw on here that you're like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite book, I need you to read that one, let me know. I'd love to read your favorite book if I own it. I need to read all of the books that I own because I have so many here that I haven't read, as you could tell from my own TBR video that I did earlier this year. But if you like this video, and I very, very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media as well as other fun bookish links down there, so don't forget to go check all of those out. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!